So here's my sources. First one, Erickson Theory of Mind. Source, Journal of Psychology. Empirical validation of Erickson Theory of Identity Crisis in Late Adolescence. Source. Okay, you want to pause this? Go ahead and read it. I'm not going to read through all this. There's also a textbook source there. If you want to clip this, go ahead and you can pause the video, take a screen cap, and run it through Google Lens, or on iOS you can just grab the text directly from the picture. Second one, prefrontal cortex, source, Harvard article under the hood of an adolescent brain. And Erickson theory states, by the way, that your identity isn't fully formed until you're validated at 17 to 20 is when your identity coalesces. And it's identity versus role confusion. I'm sorry, identity versus identity confusion. And identity confusion causes problems. So you don't want any identity confusion during that part of life. Second, prefrontal cortex. This is from a Harvard source, article under the hood of adolescent brains. And it states that the prefrontal cortex matures last, not finishing until after age 25. That means the executive functions such as reason, long-range planning, and impulse control aren't fully developed during adolescence. It also states that the prefrontal cortex is where higher functions like thought, reasoning abilities, and identity come from. Identity. Okay? And then number 3, surgery is not helpful. Excuse me. Surgery is not helping. Source, corrections to Brandstrom and Pachenka. Okay, this was a study that was done where they analyzed... I'll just read it. The article, Reduction in Mental Health Treatment Utilization Among Transgender Individuals After Gender-Affirming Surgeries, a Total Population Study, was published in 2019. The journal received many letters containing questions on the statistical methodology employed in the study that led the journal to seek statistical analysis consultations. The results of the data to compare outcomes between individuals diagnosed with gender incongruence who had received gender-affirming surgical treatments and those diagnosed with gender incongruence who had not. The results demonstrated no advantage of surgery in relation to subsequent mood or anxiety disorders and no advantage in regard to suicide attempts. And then here we have number 4, elevated rates. Multiple studies on that. This is from long-term follow-up of transsexual persons undergoing sex reassignment surgery, cohort study in Sweden, has an adjusted hazard ratio compared to Gen Pop, and it gives you the confidence interval. Okay? Pause if you want to read that one. Study from National Institute of Medicine. Varied reports of transgender suicidality, synthesizing and describing the peer-reviewed and gray literature. 42 studies. And you can pause if you want to read there. There's a source. Let's see here. And this kind of goes into a little bit of detail on the source down here in this paragraph. You want to pause there for a second in case anybody wants to stop, pause the video, and read that. CDC source for low rate amongst black population. So if you believe that the reason that transgender people have a higher suicidality, you believe it's because they're discriminated against. Well, the black community does not correlate with that. You can see here the age-adjusted rate says 8.7 per 100K for black African American, and the Gen Pop white 17.4. And then trans would be about 80 per 100 here. By very, very low estimates. Like I said, some of these, this one claims 16 to 22 is what most of these claim. So if we round this number to 20 per 100K, multiply that by 20, right? That's a lot, dude. Council for Choices in Healthcare in Finland. This just talks about how it must be confirmed that the young person is able to understand the significance of irreversible treatments and the benefits and disadvantages associated with lifelong hormone therapy, and that no contraindications are present. So young individuals are not capable of understanding the significance or irreversible nature of the treatments. They're not fully capable of internalizing that, understanding it, processing it fully like an adult would. Lack of surgical options. Neovagina study, no sensation. Tissue options for construction of neovaginal canal and gender-affirming vaginoplasty. Recently, robotic and laparoscopic approaches that harvest peritoneum have emerged as potential solutions for penoscrotal hypoplasia, which is basically limited skin in the cases of GAV. Limited skin due to someone going on puberty blockers and transitioning to cross-sex hormones. They're left with the development of whatever age they past puberty. And in the author's experience in attending transgender health meetings via direct communication, some centers offer primary GAV using peritoneal flaps to all patients, while other centers offer this operation only to patients with insufficient genital skin. Okay, this is a way, way, way inferior surgery because of this. And it says here, however, as access to gender-affirming care continues to improve and patients can access pubertal suppressants, the utilization of primary peritoneal flat-based vaginoplasty may continue to increase to avoid the need for extra genital grafts. But this is, like I said, this is a woefully downgraded surgery. And we talk about innervation, peritoneal innervation, embryology and functioning anatomy. This is a source right here that talks about how the peritoneum has no touch sensation. It has been documented and observed in human patients that the peritoneum is sensitive to strain, shift, and stretching, but not to touch, pressure, or thermal stimulus. So this isn't like normal skin. They're taking basically a part of your intestines, putting it, using it to construct a neovagina, and if it were normal tissue, if it were normal skin, that's very similar to the scrotal skin, then the nerves can grow into that tissue somewhat, and they can develop some sensation, somewhat normal sensation there. It's not the high rate growth that you would see in typical genitalia, but it's still a lot better than this, where it basically, you get no sensation of touch whatsoever. Those nerve cells, it's not an environment conducted to their growth. They're not able to grow into this tissue. Risk of blockers, including small wiener. Risk of puberty blockers should be discussed with your medical provider prior to starting treatment. Risks include infertility, particularly if started in early puberty, low bone mineral density, fatigue, mood alterations. For young transgender girls, puberty-blocking medications will limit tissue available from penile and scrotal source for future surgical treatments, again, leaving them without options. 6. Sweden's healthcare ministry stated that they currently believe blockers and cross-sex hormones do more harm than good. They've also never allowed surgeries under 18. I was in direct contact with the PR physician. He was a neurologist who basically did the PR, who talked to the press for the health ministry in Sweden. I was in email communication with him directly. They put out this quote, this exact line, but in 2022, and then I think maybe like 2 years later, they revised it to be a little bit more careful in wording. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's probably a political thing, because they straight out came out and said it in the first place, which is huge. And then 7, we have WPATH leaks. Source, case number 24A78, Supreme Court of the United States, U.S. Department of Ed versus Louisiana. President Dr. Marcy Bowers commented on the impact of early blocking of puberty on sexual function in adulthood. To date, she writes, I'm unaware of an individual claiming the ability to orgasm when they were blocked at Tanner stage 2. Tanner stage 2 is the beginning of puberty. It can be as young as 9 in girls. In theory, this is another doctor. In theory, it's important that you talk about fertility preservation with a 14-year-old girl or 14-year-old. But I know I'm talking to a blank wall, one Canadian endocrinologist wrote, and this was on their internal website. So it's on their like an internal messaging site, like internal board, and they have internal emails as well. They were hacked and leaked by, or basically it was all leaked by a physician that was working there and thought, the public should know about these things. So there you go. We have 7 foundations here for concern. Okay? If you don't think any of these are a concern, maybe you'll think the other one's a concern. But when you add up all 7, like, this isn't just in my head. I'm sorry. Like, we can do better, people. And that's all I'm saying is we can do better. We need to do better.